Hello folks, this is Andrew here from Plainfield Public Library, and I'm here to do a little bit more on OBS, which is the piece of software that you can use to stream things to various different stuff online. So what we're going to do today is just have a look at how you would prepare what's called a scene in OBS and how you would add various different sources to it. So just for convenience's sake, I'm going to quickly just add a little webcam just now, just so you can see me. So we're going to add a webcam, and we're going to do that. Don't worry, this is not me teaching you it, this is just me adding something so that you can see me and it looks a little bit more like a presentation. So here I am. Hello. So yeah, let's look at the screen. Let's look at OBS here that we've got. Well, we have the main section up here, which has currently got this preview of my face on it. Hello. And down here we've got all the different controls for OBS. Now, if you happened to go to the Lights, Cameras, Action seminar that I was at, I used a metaphor there for OBS, saying it was a little bit like using, what's it called, PowerPoint. In as much as the scenes, these guys down here, are a little bit like slides, and the sources over here are a little bit like the words and pictures you might put into a slide. So by switching between scenes, what you get in your image is basically you know, different materials that you've decided to put there. So let's look at how you would build a scene. You already saw a very slight kind of demonstration when I added my webcam so that you can see me. But let me delete this webcam again so that I can talk about it in a little bit more detail as we do it. So I'm going to go away and you'll just see the OBS screen now. So I'm going to delete the webcam. There it goes away. Okay, so we're on this scene which is currently called Scene 1. Just for simplicity's sake, I'm going to call it Start Scene, just so you can see that the name of this scene is something arbitrary. We can call it whatever we like. We're going to call this Start Scene. This is the one that we're currently editing. Okay, and I'm going to add a webcam to this scene so that we can see something on the screen. And let's do this plus button over here. Excuse me, this is our sources, this is our plus button to add sources to it. And you can see there's various different kinds of sources that you can add. We're not going to go into everything because there's obviously lots of different stuff, lots of fun things like images, image slideshows. We can capture the whole display if we want to, though that gets a little bit confusing sometimes. Window displays. We're going to go for this video capture device. That's something like a webcam, something like a camera. We're going to choose that. And it has this pop-up that says, do you want to use an existing one that you've populated this with before, because it can remember the ones that you've already told it exist and maybe you've named them, or do you want to create a new one? So we're going to create a new one. I'm going to call it Webcam Andrew, and again I'm putting my name in it so that you can see that these labels are arbitrary. You can call them whatever you like, just something that's explanatory for you. So we're going to create a new one, a new source that's going to be called Webcam Andrew. I'm going to hit OK. And it immediately finds the various different video sources that are available for me. And in this case, there's this live streamer cam 313, which is actually my webcam. There are a couple of other things that happen to be connected to my computer, either as software or physical things at the moment. If my iPhone was available, I would be able to hook up to that as well through this re-incubate thing, but we can handle that in a minute. For the time being, I'm just going to go for this live streamer cam, which is my webcam. And I'm going to hit OK. And there you can see that in the broadcast screen, the webcam appears. That's my webcam just now. It doesn't have fantastic resolution, so that is actually what my webcam looks like if it's actually at its native resolution on that screen. It's not a lot of pixels, so if it was actually to just broadcast without being magnified, it would just look like that on the screen. There'd be a big black border around it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to blow it up by grabbing one of the corners and just dragging it and dragging it. And of course you can see that there's a lot of empty space around me. It's not very interesting. So I'm going to do on my Windows keyboard here, I think it's Alt on Mac as well. I'm going to hold down my Alt key and I'm going to go up to one of these handles and drag it, and you'll see that the line, as I drag it, turns green, which is what happens when you're cropping it. So I'm going to crop out some areas around there. That's a bit more like it, but it's still rather small, so I'm going to drag it over here, and then I'm going to blow it up again, and now I take up much more space on the screen. The quality's gone down a little bit because we've magnified the image quite a lot, but if I had, you know, an SLR or something like that, I could use a proper optical zoom to get closer to the things I want it to be. Or indeed, if I just had something that had better quality than this current webcam, I could be using that, and that again would improve the image a little bit. But most of us have got webcams, and this is, you know, recognizable as a human being, so you know, it's kind of good enough for some purposes, but basics are basics, and yeah, if you need to manipulate the image, it's something that you can do. So there we go, we got a webcam. Now, you'll notice that down here, it's got a visual source. At the moment, there's no audio source. Nothing is actually producing any audio for it. And the reason you can hear me just now is because I'm actually using something else to record this with. It gets a bit crazy if I try and record it actually with OBS. But I can add audio sources. I suspect what will happen if I do this just now is if I add an audio input, you might hear me with a sort of doubled effect or something like that, or we might even get feedback. Who knows? Something like fun like that. Let's put an audio input capture in, and I'm going to say it's going to come from the webcam mic because there's a microphone. Oh, you know what? No, let's put it from the headset mic because there's a microphone in my headset just now. So I'm calling it headset mic. That's just the label for it. Okay. And I'm going to hit OK, and it's going to show me the various audio sources that are available for me. At the moment I have my headset plugged in and I have a microphone on my webcam that I have. So here, the live streamer microphone, that belongs to the live streamer, that's my webcam, or there's the headset microphone, which is this LiveChat LX3000, that's my headset that I've got. Okay. So that's that one on the headset microphone. It's just coincidence that I labelled it headset mic and it happens to be called headset microphone. I could call it anything I like. But you can see now that what we've got is a sound source for this scene, and we've got a webcam for this scene. And you can see actually that because I've now added a sound source, this meter over here, which shows us the sound coming in, is actually registering me talking. You can see the green line that occasionally goes into yellow and red as I make noises, and if I make loud noises, it goes red to indicate that it's overloading. I can adjust that with this bar and add more gain or less gain depending on how things are. So I'm going to pause now and actually review that so I can see whether or not the audio went crazy with that. But that's basically how you would add a webcam and a microphone to OBS, and we've got a scene. We'll move on in a second or two to add another scene to show how you would change between scenes, and you can start to see how that could be useful for you. But I'm going to pause for now and we will edit the next part in. Okay, so let's move on, and I'm going to make a second scene so that we can move between them. Now, if I just made the second scene look a lot like this one, it wouldn't be much of a visual demonstration because they'd look a lot the same. So I think what I'm going to do is put an image into the other scene, and probably I'll make the webcam go off to like just one corner of that scene so that it can be, you know, kind of an additional bit to it rather than being just the whole thing like it is right now. So, remembering the metaphor that I was using, that it's a bit like doing a PowerPoint slideshow, we're going to make a new scene, which is like making a new slide. So over here where the scenes are, I'm going to click the plus button to create a new scene. So plus button, and it asks me to enter the name of the scene. So I'm going to say image with webcam. Of course, if you're doing something more specific, you can give things much more informative names if you're doing a whole bunch of stuff. So image with webcam is what we're going to do for this just real generic thing right now. So let's hit OK there. Okay, so we've got start scene, which was the first one that we made, and we've got image with webcam, which is the new scene that we've just made. And you can see that this one is illuminated, showing that this is the current one. If I go back to the start scene one, it goes back to the start scene one and adds the sources from that one. So let's add a couple of sources to image with webcam. So the first one I'll do is I'll add the webcam that we want to use. So let's go and add a source, and we'll go to video capture device, and that create or select source thing comes up again, and it's offering us the chance to create a new video capture device, but we actually already made one for the webcam, so we might as well use that. We could make another one if we wanted to, but we don't need to. So I've clicked add existing, and I'm going to highlight webcam Andrew, which I made before, and I'm going to hit OK. And you can see that the source appears over here in the source list for the image with webcam scene, and the broadcast window shows that we've got the webcam available to us. So I'm just going to drag this off to one corner, and I'm going to do that thing to just crop it so that we don't have a lot of extraneous detail there we don't need. And we're going to go over and add yet another source. So let's click the plus button again, add, and this time I'm going to choose an image, just a still image, but I'm going to choose image. And we're going to create new image, and I'm going to say, I think I have some nifty Dracula style stuff, so I'm going to go Dracula. That's going to be the name of the image, the label for the image as a source. And I'm going to hit OK, and it's going to ask me what file to use for this. I'm going to hit OK, and currently it says properties for Dracula, nothing's there. There's a box here that says image file, big blank space, and it says browse. It's going to ask me to browse for the image I want to use, so I'll hit browse, and I hope you can see this, I'm not certain you can. It's going to come up with a thing to browse for an image file. I'm just going to go to my overpopulated desktop here and look for a Dracula image that we can use. And this one's a JPEG file. I'm going to click this Dracula Bat1 copy. Okay, and I'm going to hit OK. I don't know whether you got to see that as it was happening or not, because it was a Windows chooser window to choose the file, not part of OBS, which I don't know whether I was recording that or not. Anyway, I chose the file off the desktop. There it is. It's this thing from the desktop, Dracula Bat1 copy.jpg, and it gives us a little preview of what it's going to look like. I'm going to ignore this other stuff for now. If that wasn't the one I wanted, I could hit browse and choose a different one. Okay, I'm going to hit OK because that is the one I want. And you can see now that it has put that image onto the screen, and in fact this little red border continues on past the broadcast area. I'm going to move this to side so you can see it a little bit as well. Those are the actual edges of the image file itself, because it's just slightly too big to fit in it vertically like that. We're going to have to shrink this to get it onto the screen. So again, I'll just grab the handles and I will move it on, and I will do that. So now we have an image file that we can have accompanying the webcam if we wanted to do that. So let me show you something here as well. I've got the webcam selected there, that's why all the handles are done, and I'm going to move it off to the side, and you'll see it goes underneath the Dracula image when we move it across. So I start to disappear like that, and that is because of the order of these sources in the source list. If I were to select Dracula and drag that underneath, the order has changed here in the source list, and it means that the webcam now goes on top. So we can always do that with whatever visual sources we've got, and it affects the order in which they're displayed on the broadcast window. That's very handy if we happen to be using something that has transparency. Now that's a matter of, let me just get rid of this Dracula thing. That is a matter of the kind of file that you're using. So yeah, if we're interested in overlaying a file that has some transparency, we need to have an image file that supports that. So I mostly use PNGs for that. If you have a PNG file and it's on a transparent background, OBS can use that. Making files with transparency is a whole other topic. There are lots of videos on the web about it, so I would point you towards that if you want to do that. You can't make those files within OBS itself. You would have to use another program like Photoshop or maybe Procreate or something like that to make them. But suffice it to say that if you have an image and it includes transparency information, or an alpha channel it's sometimes called, then you can put those into OBS and it should recognize them. So let's do that. Let's add an image that's like that. So I'm going to add a source for an image that has transparency. So I'm going to go to our add button here, I'm going to go to image, and I'm going to just call this transparent. Okay, and again, that's just the label for it. It could be called anything at all. Okay, and it's going to ask me to browse for the image I want to use for that. So let's do that. We're going to browse. I know I have one on my desktop that will fit the bill, so I'm going to go to my desktop, and I'm going to look for this one called Hat. There it is. Hat is a PNG file, and it has some transparency in it. There it is. So let's open that up. There it is now. Okay, looks like that. I'm going to hit OK, and you can see that Hat has actually appeared, and I can move that to the appropriate place on the window, and I can just as quickly turn that off again if it gets a bit too ridiculous. But okay, let's turn it back on again because it showed us that we were doing something. So now I can transfer between different scenes if I want to. So I can go to my start scene and it'll fade over to that, or I can go to image with webcam and it'll go to this different setup that I have. Now that was all very well as a demonstration, but it shows you a couple of critical things. It shows you that you can very quickly change between completely different setups. Now the setup that I had actually used the same webcam, and it used the same, or it would use the same audio. But you can set it up to use completely different cameras, maybe cameras in a completely different place. And you can transfer between those by just clicking on this one button with this one scene. Or say that you had a presentation that you wanted to give over video. You could set that up with different visual elements, exactly like a set of slides, and you could just move from scene to scene to scene to scene, looking at different, kind of different setups with different visual information, different locations for the camera, different overlays, different things like that. So that in a nutshell is basically how you would use the basics of adding different scenes to OBS. If we look over this add menu, you can see that there's lots of different other things that you can do. I think I will show you just one more because it comes in handy. Well, maybe actually two different sorts more, because it comes in very handy if you're trying to do written information on top of things. So I'm going to show you the text one first of all. Let's do text on this. We're still on this start scene one, so we're going to add text to the start scene. So we'll go text. And I'm just going to say Andrew text for the name of this source. Okay. And we're creating that. And it comes up with the properties window for this. And it allows me to choose different fonts, and it would also allow me to choose different colors eventually as well. I'm going to type in the text that I want to use. Hello world. Okay, and I can select font and color. Well, let's give it a fancy font since we're doing that. Okay, there we go. I'm going to hit OK, and it is now appearing as a text, which is just there. If I want to change certain properties about this text, the properties of the selected source are actually coming up as a thing I can check here. I think I can also right click on it. Yeah, the properties come up that way as well. But anyway, let's go to the text. Select font, select color. Let's select the color. And I can choose whichever color I want. I can make it red if I want to do that. If that shows up better. And when I click off of things, the frame goes away, obviously. So I would broadcast with this text overlaid over the image. But suppose, let me make it a less bright color. Suppose we have a situation where the color doesn't show up all that well. So I have a blue shirt on and this purple isn't showing up all that fantastically well against the blue. Well, obviously there are various different graphical things we can do to organize the image itself, but we can also add bars of color and things like that to the image. So let's look at doing that, because it's a very simple, easy way of getting some information areas on your screen. So let's add another source, and in this case we're going to add a color source. I'm just going to call it color source. I'm not going to bother changing the name this time. And it starts off with this sort of mid-grey, and it's a huge big block of colour that fills up the whole thing. I'm going to change the height. I can always resize things later on, but let's just change the height of that just now. Okay, and of course I can select the colour as well. Let's give it this wonderful aqua colour, because that's nice and tasteful. Okay, so we've done that, and that is now, part of my visual ensemble on the window. If that shape isn't quite right, I can just use the handles and drag it, and I can put this on as part of the makeup of the whole thing. And I can change the order of materials. So the color source is currently on the top, but if I want it underneath the text, I can do that, and then I get nice broadcast window with me on it, and then a nice clear piece of text that I can organize and do things with that way. So yeah, as I was saying, I mean, these are pretty basic examples and pretty horrible colors, but it kind of gets you into the idea that you can assemble different materials. So what I would like to do next is have a look at the control section over here to talk about what you would do with those materials to get them into things like a Zoom call, or put them into things like a YouTube channel or a Facebook Live channel, so that you can use this to control the images that you're outputting live. Because of course one of the things that it's really great for is the fact that you can make very sudden changes to things in a live situation. So really you can change the whole look of a thing, change the information that you're displaying with one click, because you've set up scenes to do it. So let's move on, and I'll make that the next little edit that I do. Okay, so we're back, and let me now do a little bit of a tutorial in how we would get the things that we've organized to show in OBS. We've put together our scenes the way that we want them to actually display, and how we get them actually into something like Facebook. So to do Facebook Live, we're going to do streaming in this case. Facebook Live has a couple of ways to get material into the webcast, and streaming is probably the best because it interfaces directly with Facebook's servers. If we do a virtual camera for this, it actually has to go through more processing, and the image can be a little bit more degraded rather. That's not a bad thing necessarily in all cases, and certainly this image is already, because it's zoomed in so much, it's already fairly, beaten up. But the virtual camera way can be a simpler way of doing things sometimes if you want to do that. And that way it's just much more like using a camera, or you can just go for streaming. So if you're doing YouTube, or if you're doing Facebook Live, or if you were doing Twitch, or you were doing something else like that, where it has a streaming option, I would probably go for the streaming option. So let's look at the streaming option itself. What I'm going to do actually just now is I'm going to take us over in this example to our Facebook page, and I'm going to show you what it looks like when we set up to do a bit of live streaming. So I'm just going to drag this window off to one side, and you can see now what we've got is the Facebook window. Let me just make that a little bit bigger. This is actually the Plainfield Public Library's Facebook page. And you can see one of the things that I see in the usual place where I can create posts is this button that says live. So I'm going to click that, and you'll see what happens when I do that. It's not going to go live straight away. It's going to show me a page where it is going to allow me to set up some live output when it gets around to it. Okay, so there's a couple of ways it allows me to do that. You can see here it allows me to use a stream key, which is the direct streaming way, or I can use a camera. So if I did not have OBS, I would probably have to use a camera. I could also use StreamYard or things like that. But if I was just using a camera, I would be doing this use camera technique, and it comes up with somewhat different way to do it here. You could select the different camera and do stuff like that. It's coming up with camera issue just now because OBS is actually using the camera just now for something. So if I wanted to use a stream key, it's slightly different, and it has this rather complicated stuff with the server URL and the stream key. Those are the two keys, or the two bits of information that I need to give OBS to be able to get it to do live streaming. And you can see it's waiting to connect streaming software to go live. So to tell you more about that, let's go back over to OBS, right? And we can see that there's our stream key. I'm not going to show you the whole stream key. Or, I guess I could. I can always reset it. Let me get that in there. All right. So we're back with OBS now. What I'm going to do now is show you some of the settings that we have. So this is our settings button over here, and it allows me to change various things in our settings, including stuff about our stream and the various different settings for it. Now, it's set to stream to Facebook Live. It has various other ones that are already set up there. You can set custom ones, or you can just go for Facebook Live. Or YouTube. That's another one that works very well. Okay, so I've got it set for Facebook Live, so that corresponds actually to the Facebook URL that we got. And over here, there's the setting where you would paste in the stream key that you had. So let's go back again, and I'll show you Facebook again. Oops. Why is it not letting me do that? Okay, I've got the... Okay, I'm going to cancel out of this. Let's go back to Facebook, and you can see there's the stream key there, this long figure here. So I can copy that stream key with this button. It has copied it. You saw that brief check mark there. And I can go in. Whoops, it keeps resizing that to the whole screen. I can go into the settings. I can go to stream, and I can paste in. With Control V, I can paste in that stream key. Okay, so whatever your stream key was on your live setting, that's what you would paste in. Now, let's just click OK there. I want to show you something else over on Facebook here. This setting here, use a persistent stream key. This can be reused every time you go live. You can only browse one live video at a time with your persistent stream key. Well, we're only doing one at a time, so that's fine. And what it means is that this here doesn't keep changing, because otherwise every time you do a new live stream, you'll have a new stream key and you'll need to go through that business of pasting in the stream key every time you do it. But if you use a persistent stream key, it stays the same. You don't have to keep changing it. So that's a setting you might want to do. More or less everything on this page after that, apart from the title and the description of the live stream itself, those are required. Well, title is required. More or less everything else here I generally don't mess with. I just leave it to OBS to do all the design stuff and so on. So if I've got the stream key set up properly in my settings, so if this is correct and matches what's on there, we ought to be able to stream into Facebook Live. So let's have a look and see what happens with that. So it says here, it says connect the streaming software to go live. So let's do that. What we're going to go do is, what we are going to do is go back to OBS. Oh, come on, stop resizing it. We're going to go back to OBS and we're going to say start streaming. What that does is it starts streaming what we've got set up currently here, what you can currently see, and it sends it through that URL and that stream key to Facebook Live. So it's currently streaming out to Facebook Live. Let's see if we've got anything over there in Facebook Live. And you can see down here, there's a little thumbnail here. Let's blow it up a little bit more. We've got the thumbnail from Facebook Live. You can see that I'm going to wave my hand now. There's actually a bit of a delay before it does what you're actually doing. There, he's just waving his hand now. There's a bit of a delay with it. Now, I've got to put a title in. Title goes here. Okay. Description goes here. Stuff. Okay. Now, when I've put the details in like that, I'm not going to go live, but it's possible just to go live, and then it will do a couple of seconds of transition, and then it will go live, and your live page will be, your live event will be going out over Facebook Live at that point. Meanwhile, well, you've got OBS. Let's make OBS really small so you can see what's going on. Well, you've got OBS running at the same time. You can change things in OBS. So I'm over here with the start scene in OBS, and I'm going to change it to this second scene that we set up. And you can see over here in the little tiny screen, it actually changed straight away. There'll be a delay, and then it will eventually appear on the actual live stream too. So you can see that what you're doing with OBS affects what's actually happening with the live stream. And if we actually were going live, which of course we're not yet, you would see that reflected in what goes out for broadcast to the people. And that's how that works, basically. When you're finished, you want to hit the stop streaming button up here, and it will stop the stream going out from OBS. But it's still in Facebook's servers, and it takes a few more seconds for the stream to finish up. So when that's finished up with, you would finish up your live stream. As a matter of fact, when you're doing a real live stream, it comes up with a slightly different ending to things in Facebook, which is pretty self-explanatory. Yeah, and that's it. That's how it works with the Facebook setting. We'll do another one with YouTube to show you the same thing, and then we'll have a look at how we would use the virtual camera setting over here to plug the stuff that OBS is producing into something that's just expecting to see a camera. So that's that. Okay, so yes, we're recording. Okay, good. So now let's do the one with much the same thing, but we're going to look at YouTube this time. So different settings in OBS, but actually kind of much the same sort of thing. You'll see that basically what we're going to do is change the stream key, and we would change the URL if the URL setting was required. Let's go over to settings in OBS. We'll go to the stream here, and you can see that there's the services settings. This is in place of typing in the URL that the various services will give us, but it happens that OBS just has standard settings for this anyway, so we can just choose the service that we're interested in. So there's Facebook Live and there's YouTube, so we're going to choose YouTube. And the server says primary YouTube ingest server. That works for me. Let's go for that. And we're going to use the stream key here. You can see it says use stream key advanced. So I'm going to do that. And you can see I've got this series of dots there. Let's just delete that for the time being, right? I am going to delete that, and I'm going to paste in the stream key that we will get from YouTube. So let me get this out of the way. Oh, alright, I'm going to cancel out of that. We're going to cancel out of that. This is my personal YouTube account, so please excuse its appearance. Up here, we've got the create button in YouTube. And we're going to say go live up in the top corner there. And then it takes a little while to load in the YouTube studio for going live. But you'll see that it's essentially much the same sort of page that we saw in Facebook, in as much as it's waiting for some streaming software to go live. It's got the stream key and it's got the stream URL and stuff like that that we can use to do the settings in our streaming software. Now the URL, as we said, is already taken care of by the settings that were already in OBS, but the stream key is something that we need to paste in. So I'm going to copy my stream key, and again that's something that's personal to each and every person. So there's my stream key that I'm going to do, and I'm going to go back to OBS. And I'm going to paste in the stream key that I need to use for this particular stream. So settings and stream, and I'm going to delete what's there currently, and then I'm going to paste in the stream key from YouTube. Okay, oops. Alright, and that should be okay. I've applied that. I'm going to hit OK. Now that I've got those two bits of information into the settings, it knows that it's going to the YouTube primary ingest server and it's got the stream key. I should be able to start streaming. So I'm going to hit start streaming. It's connecting. It looks like it connected successfully to my YouTube channel. You can see that there was something happening in the background there. And any second now, yes, there it is. It's appeared in YouTube, and that actually is already live, unlike with the Facebook one. It doesn't have much of a preamble as to like exactly when it goes live. At the moment it's still private, so I'm not embarrassing myself doing anything online with this, and I believe that the concurrent viewer is probably me. But anyway, that's essentially how that happens. And again, much as it is with the Facebook version of it, I can change around what the image does and it'll be reflected a couple of seconds later in the actual stream because there's a little bit of a break. There he is. Okay, so heading back, we can do that, and just again as it was with Facebook, we can stop streaming and it will end the stream. And a few seconds later it will be reflected in the end of the live stream. Looks like it's having a little think about it. This stream will end shortly unless you restart it. Okay, and I can end it properly there. Okay, good, end stream. And those are the basics of how live streaming works in YouTube. So let's move on and we'll do something with the virtual camera to show you how that works. Okay, so let's do a final example here. This time I'm going to go into Zoom and use the virtual camera setting on OBS to produce some graphics and things that I can include in a Zoom call if I want to. One interesting thing with this is that I can actually include stuff like window captures of other windows on my computer. So I could take something like a YouTube video or an image or something else that was running elsewhere, and I could include that in the camera that I was piping into Zoom. Or indeed, I can actually play movie files. So before we go into Zoom, I'm going to set up like a movie file, a media source in fact, to play a movie file into it so that we can see that appearing in our Zoom meeting. So creating a new source is going to be a local file, and I'm going to browse for a file that it can use. Let's go to videos, and in fact, let's see. Here's one of the ones that I prepared earlier. In fact, it's in the earlier part of this actual video. Okay, so there it is. Okay, show nothing my place. Okay, so as a matter of fact, I can stop that, and I should be able to play it when I need to. Where's it gone? There it is. Okay, that's confusing enough. Let's make it less confusing by cropping it, okay? Because it has a picture of Zoom in it, and we don't really need that. We're just going to crop that out of the way so that it becomes slightly less confusing, okay? So, and I think also with the properties, I'm going to do something to the video on it just so that it looks a bit different. This is something I didn't add, but you can use it to do things like color corrections and stuff like that. So we're just going to make this one look a bit wacky. Okay, so now we know that that's the purple guy. Okay, so that's not me live, obviously. So we'll put him up there, and he's in my Zoom call. He's another piece of media. He is in fact, he could just as easily be a live window from some other service that's actually already on my computer. Could be somebody else in there. Okay, so we've set up other stuff that can go into our Zoom call. And I'm going to, when the time comes, I'm going to start virtual camera with this control just over here. It just says start virtual camera, and it just works straight away. Start virtual camera, stop virtual camera. I'm going to go into it with the virtual camera off for a second, just to show you what it's like when the camera's off. So, Zoom. Let's go over to Zoom, and I've signed in again to my personal account, and we're going to start this meeting, and it's going to launch the Zoom meetings app. Okay, let's bring that to the front. Oh, there it is. Okay, connecting. I'm pretty sure the computer audio is okay. In any case, I'm not really going to bother with that. It's just the usual audio for that. And of course, there's nothing to see right now. There's no video to see. So over here, where I've got start video, I've got this little upward pointing arrow here, and it's going to show me my different video sources. There we are. And because I've got OBS available to me, as well as this live streamer cam, which is just like regular style webcam, I've got this OBS virtual camera. I can't actually choose that live streamer cam at the moment because OBS is currently using it. But I can choose the OBS virtual camera. Let's choose OBS virtual camera. And we'll click start. And we get this no broadcast overlay. which is just a symbol that we haven't started the OBS virtual camera. So that's just a troubleshooting hint that we need to start the OBS virtual camera. So let's do that. We'll start the virtual camera and you should see it change in the background over there. There he is. He's just peeking out there. You'll also notice that it is a mirrored image. And never fear, that actually does work properly when let me just get this out of the road here. That does work properly when people see your stuff. And I'm going to click play on our little media guy there so that he starts running. There he is. He started to move in the background there. Okay, he can stop now whenever he likes. So yeah, this is me actually. I'm in a Zoom call. I'm the host of this meeting just now. There's nobody else in it just now, obviously, but this is what you would see in Zoom. And as a matter of fact, I can do the usual things in Zoom. I can choose a virtual background. I can do all that kind of stuff. Let's do that. Sometimes, though, it will work rather oddly with Zoom material with the OBS materials, because it doesn't recognize that they're not actually part of the background as such. So I've got my artificial background going on in here, which is something that Zoom is adding. But it has ignored the other stuff that I added in OBS. So I'm going to turn that off. So for that reason, if you have a lot of complex graphics going on in OBS, I would suggest not doing the virtual background thing. There are some other settings and things that you can do within OBS that are a bit more advanced that would allow you to do things like use an actual green screen. You know, if you just want to have the ordinary sort of blur my background, use an artificial background thing going on in Zoom, you can still have that, but mostly at the expense of some of the other materials. If I turn on some of this text stuff that we did previously, and again, that's mirrored to our view, but when other people see it, it will look correct. If I now go to Zoom and do the virtual background thing, you can see that it looks very odd, and you know, while Zoom's trying to figure out what to do with it, it's actually blurring it and doing strange things with it. So it's not particularly useful in that sense, but you can use it to put in other materials into your live stream. Let me get rid of this virtual background here. Okay, so that's it. Let me go back to OBS here. In fact, I'm going to just end that meeting. Okay, lovely. We'll go back to OBS because it's a bit cleaner to look at. We'll get rid of these crazy looking things. So that's it. We had a look at adding scenes. We had a look at adding sources and manipulating sources. We had a look at starting streaming. We had, oops, I can stop the virtual camera. We had a look at a couple of different streaming services and the basics of using a virtual camera for something. Basically, it just appears as a camera. What I didn't mention actually was the recording. I can actually be recording this main output of Zoom the whole time I'm using it, so I can use it as just a method of doing an ordinary sort of presentation. If I want to combine different materials and do a recorded presentation that way, I can start a recording in Zoom. I haven't mentioned studio mode, which is a way of kind of setting things up in advance before you do stuff. It starts to get a little bit more complicated with that. And there are several other settings that would handle things like resolutions of materials and all sorts of other stuff. But we don't need to get into that today. These are the basics for getting into OBS, and they're more than enough for most folk to get started with. If you want a hand with any of the particular specific things that you might get stuck with, you can always drop me a line. Let me write my email address on here for you. I should have thought of that. That would be andrew.eason@plfdpl.info. Make that smaller. You can drop me a line at this address here, and I will give you a little while to try and help you unsnag things. Sometimes there are things that just aren't all that easily achievable, and I wouldn't have time to help you with that. But if it's just a question of, like, you know, figuring out some of the mysteries of it to get started, I'd be more than happy to help. That's it from me just now. I hope this has been helpful, and please do drop us a line if there's more that we can help you figure out to do with OBS and how you might apply it to doing presentations and things for libraries. Thanks a lot. Bye bye for now.